got up bright and early on this Monday because I wanted to do a little reaction to whatever happened. And it turned out what happened was exactly what most people would have imagined would take place. Rory McIlroy destroys JJ Spawn in a 3-hole playoff. JJ goes in the agua on hole 17, and it ended right there. He had no chance once he went in the water and hit a actually pretty terrible penalty shot as well. So Rory wins the second players, joins an exclusive club of multiple time winners of guys like Jack and Tiger. So you got Rory McIlroy, who wins his second tournament of the year and looks like he's playing as well as he's ever played. I know he won majors early on in his career, 4 of them, but I would say this version of Rory is better than any version that's ever happened since he's been on the PGA Tour for 16, 17 years. And I think big picture, when you look at him, I mean, the only thing he's trying to accomplish now is, and he said this, is to win majors. And I think specifically Augusta, which as someone that had a lot of money on him in 2024, it was a tough pill to swallow because he was paired with Scotty Scheffler those first couple days. And the wind was humming. And it was like, he's got no shot. Scotty's on a completely different level. And when you look at him right now, one of his huge advantages, obviously he's playing at an elite level, but Scotty Scheffler, who had a Tiger-like season last year, tried to make ravioli and cut his hand and had to have surgery and wasn't able to play and looks off. Doesn't look close to the dominant player that we saw. Still an elite player, but the guy that we saw last year is not the guy that we're seeing right now. And one of the fun parts early on in the season, some of these Scotty meltdowns, I mean, he's throwing clubs, he's screaming. He's kind of throwing some hissy fits. And Xander hurts his rib. I mean, Xander won 2 majors last year. So it's like basically Rory, and it was cool. They got paired together on Thursday and Friday at the Players. It's like those are his, 2 foes right now. I mean, those are the guys that he's got to beat. I mean, 3 of the 4 majors last year were won by Xander Schauffele and Scotty Scheffler. And Rory McIlroy looks like to be on a completely different level. Now, whether it's injuries, whatever it is, time off, who cares? That's a huge, huge advantage for Rory right now is having those 2 guys be off. And obviously Bryson and guys like John Rahm, come back during the major season. And Bryson beat Rory in a major last year. But like one advantage Rory has right now is the 2 guys that can beat him in the biggest tournaments are not playing well. But I've said this forever. The notion that Rory McIlroy, like I think it's crazy. People are like, he's never gonna get it done. He just can't get it done. Like, have you guys followed this sport? People said that about Phil forever. And then he just started rattling off majors. Like to me, Rory going into Augusta, like he's playing better right now than he has the previous couple years where he was also playing at an elite level. But the big difference was, or is, moving forward, is like when the win came up, I think the last couple years, Rory would have had no chance to win this tournament because his wedge game and his ability to flight the ball was like, I don't know, man. I just don't trust you. You don't have the touch of Scotty Scheffler. You don't have what Xander has when you watch them with a wedge in his hand. And you watch whatever Rory did this offseason, and the director of Happy Gilmore said this. He's like, we were shooting this, during their offseason, during the winter, and they were long days. They were like 6 a.m. You had to, show up, and you were there till like 6 at night. So it was a long day shooting. And Rory, it was in New York City, would go to a simulator and hit balls. And one day the director, I forget his name, but asked him, he's like, hey, there's some exclusive course that he invited him to. He's like, I would love you to come play with me. And Rory's like, listen, and it turns out Rory had never played the course. Like, I would love to, but I'm working on something and I don't want to see my ball flight. So he had been working, I think, on his wedge game at these simulators, but not turning them on just because he wanted to have the feel, but he didn't want to see where the ball was going because he was afraid if he did, he would tweak something, right? He would go, I don't like that. And it was just all about a feel. And you watch him right now flighting wedges, which to me is a huge question mark for him in some of these big tournaments and has been kind of the downfall, I would say, in some of these majors, why he's had longer birdie putts in some moments where if he was a little closer, because now he's putting the ball so well, he might have 2 or 3 majors these last 2 or 3 years. And we'd be talking about this guy not like, what could have been of like Rory McIlroy is currently a 7-time major champion and probably going to be favored in several of these majors this upcoming year. Instead, it's like, well, is Rory ever going to get it done at Augusta? Like, yeah, I believe he's going to. I don't think Rory McIlroy is going to win another major. I think he's going to win several. Like if you watch this guy play, everyone said he's the greatest driver of the golf ball you've ever seen. Hard to dispute. Hits it farther and straighter than basically anyone ever. But to me, the question mark has always been like, you get him 90 yards in a big spot. Like, do you trust him? And I think historically it's been very hit or miss. Well, right now I feel there's a lot more trust. And obviously from a putting standpoint, you have a lot of confidence when he's standing over like a 7-footer. He's fucking draining them. And that ironically was the downfall last year against Bryson. Just some shorties he missed, and he hadn't missed one in like, well over 400 attempts. But you look at him right now, the last couple of years, I looked, he has 6 wins. Like he's winning at a really, really high clip. He's missed 3 cuts in the last 3 years. In 23, he had 11 top 10s. In 24, he had 5 top 10s. This year, he has 4 starts and 2 wins. Like, I'm pretty confident. I don't know if it's going to be Augusta. I would bet he's going to win a major this year. I will be stunned if he doesn't. Honestly. Like, and there's going to be a lot of pushback. Oh, this is what we say every single year. I don't think he's ever played this well. I really don't. You're watching him, and I bet he would tell you the version I am today, March 17th, the guy that just won the Players, the guy that won Pebble a month ago, is a better player than the guy that you saw rattle off those majors, whatever, 14 years ago. I don't even think it's close. Now, the competition on the PGA Tour is much better. I would say that period of time when Tiger was kind of falling off a cliff, Phil was in the transitional period where he's getting a little older. The tour was not as good as it is now. It is loaded. I mean, he's got Scotty Scheffler, who just had a Tiger-like season. Xander's a great player. You got Bryson, Rahm. Like you got great players to go against at the high end. It's deep, but I think he's currently the best player in the world. I know Scotty technically is, but like as of today, if you had a tournament next week or in 2 weeks, Rory McIlroy is a better player today than Scotty Scheffler. And I think when you look at Augusta, like I don't think it's crazy if you want to bet on him. I really don't. And I know all the people that cover golf will push back and say, we do this every year. We do this every year. Like I would have a lot of confidence on this guy going into the tournament because mental toughness, no matter what you do for a living, but especially when it comes to golf, a sport where you think way more than you actually hit and do physical activity, it's very, very easy to get in your head. I mean, let's face it, it happens to kickers, it happens to golfers, anything where you have a lot of time to think, it's easy to overthink and, get paralysis by analysis and just get in your own way. And no one would have blamed Rory over the last couple of years if it would have kind of derailed him. Going back to the Open Championship where Cam Smith won, going to LACC where he definitely should have won, and obviously last year, which is one of the more devastating, I would say, L's for a great player in my lifetime. Because it wasn't like a true Greg Norman, the course of a day, or a Vandervelde where it was one individual moment. It happened over like a 3-hole span. He had a multiple shot lead with like 6 or 7 holes to go. And then he missed 2 short putts where he hadn't been doing that all season long. And that was his moment. And then Bryson hits the shot and it becomes an iconic moment for Bryson. When it comes to college basketball and March Mania, one thing is for sure. Nothing's for sure. Upsets, buzzer beaters, Cinderellas, top seeds going home early. It's all gonna happen. Bet the unexpected. Every upset, every day with DraftKings Sportsbook. With live betting, exclusive content, promos, and parlays, DraftKings is the ultimate college basketball destination for March. Ready to make your first bet? Check out matchups and pick a team to win. It's that simple. First time, here's something special just for you. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly.
Bet the unexpected with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the code JOHN, that's J-O-H-N. That's code JOHN for new customers to get 200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Like, listen, Rory had the moment earlier in this week where he grabs the dude's phone, the kid from Texas, and it was kind of weird. It was like, what's he doing? And I also saw online, and I don't know if it's true or not, maybe I'm old, where it's like, I don't have the energy to figure this out, like what actually happened here. But if he posted on Snapchat the picture, if he didn't, funny meme. If he did, that was pretty incredible. But that was just awkward because it's like, bro, this is a practice round. Who gives a fuck what these guys say? I can't even imagine what is being said outside the ropes everywhere you go. Like everyone hears this. Can you think of what Tiger, especially after he came back from the cheating scandal, the stuff he was hearing, some of the stuff Phil heard over the years, like it's part of the deal. Like one thing I will not defend is some of these golfers live in la la land, like the Colin Morikawa situation this week, where he's like pushing back against Rocco Mediate. All Rocco said was, "Bro, be a pro. This money doesn't come from the sky. I don't owe anyone anything." Is one of the dumbest statements I've ever heard from anyone in any line of work. We all owe someone something. That this money doesn't just appear from the stars. You owe the people providing that money something. That's part of business. This is the PGA Tour is a member-run organization, Colin. You're in business with these networks. So part of these networks, when you have a devastating loss, part of talking, it's like, we don't owe the media any. What is the media? The media is fucking dead. I haven't read a newspaper in 10 fucking years. The people, as Elon would tell you, are the media. The media is irrelevant. It's about the content machine. The reason that Josh Allen has to talk after losing to the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game is because he, like all the players, are in business with CBS. And CBS and all these networks, like they're all in business together and they're all generating this money. We're in the business of being relevant, of keeping the conversation going. And that is your job. And that's all these guys like Rocco Mediate were trying to tell you of like, do you not understand? Of course he doesn't understand because ratings are plummeting, and especially a guy like Colin Morikawa. If he disappeared tomorrow, and I like Colin Morikawa, the player, but if he disappeared tomorrow, no one would notice. If Rory disappeared, it'd be a problem. If Bryson disappeared, it'd be a problem. If Colin disappeared, I'm sorry, ain't that big a deal. I know he thinks he's a big deal because of the PIP, but he's just not. The consumer doesn't give a fuck. He would be replaced yesterday. And I think these guys can get in la la land. And that's one thing I respect about Rory. Like some of his opinions, like he stood by anti-live. He still hates live, but he's smart enough to realize like this is not a sustainable thing. Like we are in the entertainment business and we are not big enough to operate without the live guys. So it's like I get all these people pushing back of like Rory's changed his tune, like he's just rich, he doesn't care. It's like, guys, he just understands this is a fucking problem. Guys like Colin have no comprehension of how this all works. I don't owe anyone anything. Well, you kind of do. Because that $2 million to finish second, where do you think that came from? Someone just pulled it out of their ass and handed it to you? Like I signed autographs for the fans. The fans, listen, I'm not anti-fan here, but the people at the event don't provide any of the money. Like they're kind of irrelevant. Same thing with football. It's like, yeah, the fans at the stadium are great, but the revenue all comes from television. And the reason these television partners are willing to pay so much is because people watch on their couch. The most valuable consumer is the guy sitting on the couch. That's the guy all these leagues care about. And say this for Rory, like he's one of the rare guys who moves the needle. Controversial sometimes, yeah. Does some things that are going to piss some people off. I hope you do. That makes you interesting. I see some of these things about like Draymond Green. Draymond Green is a throwback to the 90s. The reason the NBA used to dominate, a lot of personalities. When I watch a lot of the personalities now, boring. Jimmy Butler, crazy. The NBA needs a little more crazy. And golf used to have it a lot of huge personalities. Now the personalities kind of suck. And then you get guys like Colin who actually are the opposite. They're like talking down to you. It's like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? Are you an idiot? Do not can someone help this guy out? Hold this guy's hand? But it's hard because these guys are making so much money. It's easy to live in La La Land. It's like, yeah, less people are watching, whatever. I'm getting paid. And that's what these older guys are trying to tell him. Like, bro, this is not normal. Like, this could go away at any moment. Like, you cannot act like this. And it's why I think Scotty is somewhat endearing when he's throwing clubs and shit. It's like, I need a little more crazy Scotty. And I just think right now, props to Rory because he's come swinging this year. And I think he looks fantastic. And JJ Spawn probably would have had to play out of his ass to even have a chance. I mean, I thought, well, it's golf, anything can happen. And then you watch that first tee shot, you're like, JJ's fucked. I mean, he's got there's an intimidation factor. How could you, at a 34 years old, as a 9-year pro who's won one time on the PGA Tour, show up, especially just like getting up early, staying there an extra day, your routine's all messed up, and then you look, you're playing, like I said, currently the best player in the world, and think you got any shot. And the reality is you don't. He's just dramatically better, and he's going to be less phased by anything. The moment JJ's first tee shot went a little to the right on 16, you're like, it's going to be tough to overcome. And then he was clearly in his own head, hit a bad bunker shot on 16, and then just kind of unraveled from there. Now, on the bright side, if you're him, you made several $1 million. I know you've won a golf tournament before. This was probably the most important couple days of your career to finish. Honestly, no one beat you in regulation, right? You finished second, but you were tied with Rory at the end of 72 holes, and that's an extremely impressive accomplishment. So props to JJ Spawn because I think sometimes in golf, it's like, and I'm probably guilty of this too. Like JJ Spawn's, it feels like it was a failure. It's like this was not a failure at all. This was an enormous accomplishment. He beat everyone in the field, literally, and tied Rory. And then he lost in 3 extra holes, which, I mean, had to determine how the money gets, divvied out. But in terms of they play 4 rounds for a reason. This is not live, and he beat everybody, and he was really good. I mean, I thought he was really showed a lot of mental toughness yesterday. Had some big birdies after that opening bogey when they came out of the delay. But other than that, I'm high on Rory. Like I don't think it's crazy to think that maybe not. I forget. Does Scotty have 7 wins? I don't know if Rory has 7 wins, but like, would it shock you if he's got 4 or 5 and maybe 2 majors this year? Like I think he's going to go into all these majors. Like if I was setting the odds, I don't think his odds should be any different than Scotty's right now. I really don't. Until Scotty proves otherwise. Because right now, the Scotty that we saw last year does not look like that. That doesn't mean it can't change. And I'm not out on Scotty by any means. But like how you are currently playing kind of matters. Like, listen, I love Xander, and I hammered him over the years for top fives and top tens in majors. As of right now, coming off this rib injury, and he's even telling you, like, I'm playing like shit. I'm way off. I'm awful right now. You cannot have much confidence on him going into Augusta. I mean, you just can't. No, I'm not saying he's gonna like miss the cut, but usually you're like Sanders a lock to be. I mean, look at his record. Finishes top 10 in majors all the time. I bet if we looked at his last like 8 years, he averages like 2 a season. But right now, the way he's playing, you got to be, I would say, a little hesitant. So, congrats to Rory, the players champ.